Now, to discuss the future of fuels in business, please welcome my fellow panelists, Andre Carlos and Carl Garofalo. All right, guys. Well, today we got an awesome opportunity to talk to two great guys that I've had the opportunity to work with and meet. And why don't we just start off, give us a quick introduction of yourselves. Carl?
Hey everyone, I'm Carl Garofalo, Director of Sustainability and Decarbonized Fuel Solutions for Southern Company Gas. So in this role, pertaining to renewable fuels, working with our RNG team to do everything from onboard third-party developers onto our systems, help them connect to our pipes so they could get their RNG from their source to our customers. Also working to develop our own RNG projects to bring more of that renewable fuel to the market. Also working in the hydrogen space. We're working on a couple of different hydrogen hubs as Southern Company, and in developing that market, bringing a further decarbonized fuel solution to our customers, and also bringing RNG directly to the customer. So we don't have a product here in Georgia, but in Illinois, we have a voluntary program that our customers can opt in and begin to get the benefits of renewable gas directly, for residential and commercial customers.
And good morning, everyone. My name is Andres Carlos. I work with Amazon. I lead our fuel strategy in middle mile, so not the Rivian vans and the delivery vans that show up at your house, but the big trucks, the Class 6 and Class 8 equipment that moves everything in a position generally overnight. My team, we look at all the fuels out there, everything from traditional diesel to renewable diesel, natural gas, renewable natural gas, hydrogen, everything under the sun, trying to find the right fuel with the lowest CI and deliver it at the right point to make our customers happy and meet our delivery schedules that we promise everyone here.
All right. Well, Brian gave us a colorful introduction to renewable natural gas. But if you could, Carl, why don't you start off? Please tell us a little bit about what renewable natural gas is.
Yeah, Brian's always a tough act to follow when it comes to something like that. So I'll give you the nerdy definition. So whenever you have organic waste, when that organic waste breaks down, it creates methane. And that organic waste can come from landfills, as Brian mentioned, from agricultural operations. So that can be manure, but it could also be crop waste, wastewater treatment facilities, food waste. All of these waste streams, as they break down, they put methane into the atmosphere, and as Brian mentioned, it's a very potent greenhouse gas. So the exciting thing about renewable natural gas is we're taking that methane, we're cleaning it up, making it into pipeline quality gas, and it's a multi-tiered benefit. So one, we're preventing that methane from going into the atmosphere and being a greenhouse gas. We're also offsetting the need for additional geologic gas. So we're decarbonizing the fuel in our pipelines and helping to decarbonize other operations in the economy.
So, Andres, you've been in the clean energy space for a long time. What are you guys doing in the renewable natural gas space? And maybe give a little bit of your history, too, there.
Yeah, so when it comes to Amazon right now, we've decided that natural gas is the right play for us on the heavy duty side, and we're really bullish on it. Our journey started about 2 years ago with a handful of trucks in Southern California, and over the last 3 years, we've grown to over 3,500 CNG powered assets. And we're not quite caught up to UPS yet, but I heard the numbers earlier today, and it gives us a nice little target to reach for. As we're kind of building it up, we really like the asset. We like the platform, mostly because of its flexibility. On the Class 6 side, we run a complex network, picking up from the post office, picking up from our vendors, bring them into the network. The flexibility that the platform, the natural gas, gives us to go and put them in a Class 6 tractor, a Class 8 day cab, and even some of our sleeper cabs now are operating on natural gas. That flexibility is what we're looking for as we kind of move on into some of these future fuels that we'll get into a little bit later. In the journey that we've taken, we've leaned heavily on public infrastructure for now, to the point where a lot of folks that operated CNG stations probably never thought they'd see the volume that they're seeing today. But we partnered with Clean Energy, a company out of Southern California, to build some private stations. So you'll see those dotting the country, not just focused on the coast, but also in the Midwest as well. We've launched 3 in the Ohio Valley area, and then we've got a few coming up in Texas. So really going big across the country with natural gas, and then doubling down on it by procuring millions of gallons of renewable natural gas through contracts with Clean Energy and a couple other vendors as well, to make sure that all our gallons are covered from coast to coast with renewable natural gas, not just the ones at our private stations.
So I always think it's fascinating when you think about Amazon and just understanding how they think, right? Because it's been a very innovative company. When you're looking at your job and you're looking at the fuels for your for your fleet, how do you think through that? Like, what are you thinking through now compared to 5 to 10 years from now?
Right. So that's a great question. It's a question we think about on a daily basis on our team, and partnering with our fleet team and understanding what's available on the OEM side, right? Because from our side, we can get as much fuel as possible, but without a truck to put it in, it really doesn't do us a whole lot of good. So we've been partnering with the OEMs to better understand their timelines for not only electrification, but for hydrogen, and then as a stopgap, looking into renewable diesel as well. So we've taken a lot of small bets right now to kind of see what the different platforms will bring us, what the fuel carbon intensities look like, to see what right mix of fuel is going to get us to where we need to be in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years. I think the jury's still out really on what exactly it's going to look like that far down the road, but we're really happy where we stand today with renewable natural gas.
And just for the audience, when you guys speak about carbon intensity, can one or both of you guys take just a stab at that as far as what that means to the consumer?
Yeah, when we look at carbon intensity, that's the life cycle emissions, for a fuel or for a process. So I mentioned before that renewable natural gas prevents methane from going into the atmosphere. From a life cycle standpoint, preventing that methane from going into the atmosphere, even if you take that methane, clean it up, put it into the pipeline, and it's combusted, it does have emissions when that combustion occurs. But the overall carbon intensity of that process can actually be negative because you prevented that more powerful greenhouse gas from reaching the atmosphere. So we have to look at things holistically when we're talking about fuels, when we're talking about processes. You could take it out to a further degree and look at things like embodied carbon, what goes into a process. You got to look at things like that when you're looking at battery storage and those kind of things. But it's really just taking a holistic look at everything that goes into a process and doing the counting to make sure that you're adding where you need to add and subtracting where you need to subtract.
That helps for engineers like I'm not one, so thank you for that. So I think one of the interesting things when you think about Atlanta and you think about Georgia and look at the history from where we're at today to where we were at 50, 60, 70 years ago, the story that is consistent with this area of the country is the infrastructure of logistics, right? There's an original story of just the railroads, and then the infrastructure of the port, and then the interstate systems, and then the airport. I think the one thing, if you look at the history of Atlanta, you see that the airport changed this entire space. So when you think about sustainability, you mentioned the clean energy fueling stations, and the stations, a huge piece of that future is the infrastructure, right? So Carl, when you think about Georgia and you think about sustainability, why is this going to be an attractive place for businesses to come?
So it seems like almost weekly now, we're getting inquiries from companies that are doing business in Georgia or thinking about doing business in Georgia. And they're coming to us with very detailed questions. They want to know what we're doing to decarbonize our system. They want to know what type of solutions we're planning to help them as they put together their sustainability plans. So, Georgia has been the number one place to do business for I lost count. It's been 9. There we go.
Chris does not lose count as a tattoo.
There it is. So 9 years in a row. And you mentioned, good infrastructure. You mentioned, pro-business, climate, with the policies that we have in place here. Increasingly, sustainability. Morgan mentioned before that companies are really diving into this and doing it because it's the right thing to do. Well, we have to have the solutions for them. If we have a company or a customer that's operating boilers, or they have heavy logistics needs, they have a process that requires high grade heat. We need solutions to give those customers so they do have that pathway to net zero, and they don't have to completely disrupt the way that they're doing business or the way that they're doing a process to get there. So that's where RNG comes in, that's where hydrogen comes in, and that's where productive policy to put these fuels into the hands of our customers really comes into play to keep Georgia at the top of that list.
Andres, kind of interesting question on that. When you're looking at your fueling of your fleets, like how much does just the infrastructure for that region or that area play into the fueling decisions?
Oh, it's huge, right? Because when we're looking at where to deploy our next round of natural gas tractors, our infrastructure is taking longer, frankly, than we thought to build. So it's taking 12, 18, 24 months to build out. So we rely heavily on public infrastructure, and I think we'll continue to do so as we test out these new fuels and continue taking bets on EV and hydrogen and whatever comes next after that. It's really important for us to be able to find places that we can test out the equipment in real working environments, not just in the middle of the Central Valley in or in California where there's really no one but cows, but in real cities with real traffic and real routes that put a stress on the equipment, put a stress on the route, and put a stress on the fuel to make sure that we can deliver the fuel to power the truck that's going to do the work that we need it to do.
Great. So, what I hear from you there is there's a lot of partnerships, whether that's with clean energy or local areas that are building public infrastructure or private infrastructure. It takes a group, not just an individual company, right?
Yeah, that's right. And moreover, more on top on that is it's the infrastructure and it's also the fuel. We're in a position now where we're outsourcing our fuel, so it's getting partnerships to provide that RNG across state lines and bring it in through the pipeline system to where we need it dispensed. And then as we look at other investments we're making, including a company called Infinium, which is an e-fuel, we're looking at that next generation of fuels out there to partner with folks who have a vision to cut down on the traditional diesel fuel, cut the carbon intensity of that, and do what we can now as opposed to waiting for something that's perfect in the next 10 years.
Great. So, one of the things that we touched on, a couple of times here is RNG. We talked about, the infrastructure at Georgia. I think what is not known a lot about is the opportunity for RNG in Georgia. So, Carl, can you kind of walk us through what that looks like?
Yeah, so Georgia has the fourth highest potential for RNG of all 50 states. So the reason for that is, one, we have a lot of agriculture here. Chicken farms specifically, I think we're one or two in that space. So a lot of potential there, a lot of forestry, a lot of people, right? So when we talk about waste, waste management, we talk about wastewater management. That growing population being number one place to do business 9 years in a row brings a lot of people here, and it's going to continue to bring a lot of people here, and that's going to keep increasing the amount of available feedstock that we have. So tremendous potential. We already have some RNG on the system, but with the policy that's within the Inflation Reduction Act and in some of the other motivators, in this space, we expect a lot more RNG to come online, and we expect to develop a lot more RNG on our own too.
Great. So when you're thinking about RNG from a Southern Company perspective, Southern Company gas perspective, are you just thinking fuels, or are you thinking other ideas on end markets?
We are a fuel provider, right? So there are a tremendous number of industries and uses, for decarbonized fuel when it comes to RNG, when it comes to hydrogen. So we are really focused on making it easy, for these fuels to come onto our system, and creating solutions, for the customer. So we're not. I don't think we have a specific type of customer in mind as we develop solutions, but we do listen to our customers and make sure that we're meeting their needs when it comes to sustainability in general and decarbonized fuels in particular.
I'll add on to that. In supporting our bull case for RNG is using RNG as a baseline or a source fuel for other fuels, right? So we have a lot of RNG, we've sourced a lot of RNG, and we're starting to look at it to see what's its potential for other uses. We operate a ton of data centers through AWS, and we've partnered with that team to look at to see what can we do with the RNG that our team procures, and can we offtake or offshoot some of that over into our data centers to use to power them or for backup or emergency power. As a source fuel for hydrogen as well. It's something that we've looked at extensively to see, again, try to take one fuel and it can be the baseline for several other fuels. So it adds to that case of why RNG seems to be a great option for now. And to build on the comments that were made earlier, it's a great bridge fuel, but it can also bridge us and help us bridge to that next fuel. And we don't just have to cut it off, but I think we can still use it to support other fuels as we kind of go down the path to find that truly zero carbon fuel.
Well, Andres, that's a great segue. I think one thing, just having Amazon here, having you here is, can you just give us a little bit of an understanding about Amazon's overall climate pledge and kind of what that means?
Yeah, the Climate Pledge is we launched it in 2019. It's our commitment to be net zero carbon by 2040, which I believe is 10 years ahead of the Paris Accord. And we've had, I believe the number now is up to 200, a little over 250 other companies sign on to the agreement as well in a data sharing and a programmatic way, so we could work together to find those solutions to get us there. And transportation is certainly one of those aspects within getting to net zero, and it's a tough one. We've been working at it for quite some time. We've got a lot of really smart folks over there in Seattle working on what are the next fuels, what are the next trucks, but we need partnerships. And the Climate Pledge and our vision towards net zero by 2040 is one of those steps as we kind of look to feed off of what others are doing and leverage the work that's being done to help us take it to scale and run with it.
Well, I hope you guys have heard here today that it seems as though partnerships are really necessary. And so as Chris said before, there's going to be more networking. And so the next thing up, I believe, is lunch. And we're going to let you out here a little bit early. But first, let's give Carla and Andres a round of applause and thank them for this. Thank you, guys.